Every Sunday on the way home from meeting, I asked Joanne if she liked my sermon. I don't know why I do that. It's not like she's going to be respond with some dispassionate objectivity. She always says the same thing. She reaches over and squeezes my hands and says, "It was just wonderful," even though I know I have delivered some real clunkers over the years. But we've been doing that now for 37 years, and it's been a wonderful arrangement. Except last Sunday, when I asked if she liked my sermon, she paused. And she said, "Did you really say when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, and life closes a door and opens a window?" I said, "Well, I might have, yes, I can't remember." She said, "You did, I heard it. It was like it was raining cliches all over the meeting room." And I wasn't sure what to say about that, so I held my tongue. But that night over supper, having thought about it all day, I said, "You know, cliches become cliches because people have found them to be valuable. If a cliche is consistently false or unhelpful, it generally dies of its own weight and is no longer a cliche, right? This is my theory on cliches." She conceded that I might have a point, though I suspect she just said that so I'd shut up about it. But it got me to thinking about cliches this week. And more specifically, the enduring value of old sayings. And I remembered a quote, perhaps from Abraham Lincoln, though I must be honest and admit that I often attribute sayings I like to Abraham Lincoln. So Abraham Lincoln might not have said this, but if he didn't say it, he should have and likely would have if he'd thought to. And here are the words. "I have found immeasurable comfort in these 4 words. This too shall pass. This too shall pass." I was visiting with a friend recently. He lives up the street from me in our neighborhood, and we've become buddies. And he's been having difficulties with his teenage son. Now, I know his son. I've known him since he was born. And his son is not a bad kid. He's just being a teenager, which means not giving careful thought to the consequences of his actions, because that part of his brain that does that is not yet fully developed. And not working as diligently as his mom and dad would like. Well, that's a teenager's job to do that. And not listening to parental advice, again, a teenager's job. It's a phase, and we've all gone through it, but when you're a parent going through it, you'll remember, if you have children, it feels as if it will never improve and that your child is on their way to becoming a serial killer. This is what goes through your minds. And so I was talking with my friend the other day, listening to his concerns, and then told him what my mother always told me when my sons were teenagers. If she said it once, she said it 1,000,000 times. "This too shall pass. This too shall pass, Philip." And now my sons are adults, and sometimes my phone will ring and it will be one of them saying, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about this idea?" Something they never would have done as teenagers. Now, they don't always heed my advice, but that's all right because they're adults. And I'm not the source of infinite wisdom who must be obeyed, though I must admit that standing in a pulpit every Sunday and telling other people how to live has a certain addictive quality to it. This too shall pass. Think how often that realization has saved you from despair. Think how often when you've experienced great sorrow or deep pain or difficulty, you have taken comfort from those golden words, "This too shall pass." Reflect for a moment on the greatest challenge you face right now. Sit quietly and consider your greatest fear and anxiety. Just sit with it for a moment. And then say to yourself, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." It is both a comfort and a caution, because while it is true that bad times never persist indefinitely, it is likewise true that good times also have a shelf life. When your life is rich and full and beautiful, be sure to appreciate that. Be sure to savor that, because that too shall pass. Good times have an expiration date. When we realize good times don't continue indefinitely, we are less likely to be dismayed and embittered by the bumps and bruises of life. Have you ever known someone whose life was so smooth and effortless they could not cope when visited with adversity? They had convinced themselves that life would roll on untouched by difficulty or pain. Here's what I bet. I bet one day, when we know a whole lot more about the brain than we do now, they will discover, that is, scientists, medical researchers will discover this little fold in the human brain that is responsible for what we will call the "it will always be this way" syndrome. It will always be this way. It's that part in all of us that makes us believe nothing will ever change. It causes parents to worry their children will never mature. It causes the grieving to imagine the sun will never shine, will never again caress their lives, and the fortunate to believe their future holds no clouds whatsoever. This syndrome causes the sick to believe they will never be healed, and the well to believe they will never be sick. It causes the powerful to believe they will never be weak, and the powerless to believe they will never triumph. It is that part in all of us that can't accept change, that believes things must and will remain as they are. It is that part of us that denies the impermanence of life, that believes the universe should listen carefully to our wishes and hasten to grant them. It is our tendency to place human life at the center of creation. Though modern humans appeared only 160,000 years ago, some 230 million years after the first dinosaurs emerged, we are, you and I, a microscopic dot in the universe's timeline, which began some 13.7 billion years ago, when energy first congealed into particles which assembled themselves into helium and hydrogen atoms, creating a tiny, dense ball of fire. 13.7 billion years ago. And I think it's the end of the world because last Wednesday, someone said something I didn't like. This too shall pass. For 22 years as your pastor, I have urged you to believe in your worth and value to God. But tonight, after the sun has set, I want you to go outside and look up at the stars and remember that the nearest star to us is 4.27 light years away, and that light travels 186,000 miles an hour per second. Per second. Think about that. Then stand under that star and tell yourself that you are the center of the known universe. And after you tell yourself that, listen very quietly. And you might hear God laugh. When we know our place, we begin to understand the impermanence of life. And we realize that neither our burdens nor our joys are etched in cosmic stone. This too shall pass.